we spoke to Scott about the currency and stuff, especially because it is a big sort of issue that's happening within Russia at the moment with the formation of BRICS. Let's see what Scott has to say about it.
Yeah, because it does seem like there is a bit of the illusion, I guess, on the news and media that there is this currency war going on, especially with the BRICS, that sort of thing coming through, and people are just kind of going nuts, not knowing what's happening with their money, especially in Australia, where our dollar has got devalued so much just sneakily over the year. And we know that there's a problem in Australia when the New Zealand dollar is actually worth more than ours. And no, I don't think people...
Really? Is that the case?
Yeah. So that's the thing. So I guess there's a kind of a warning sign just for us that, okay, well, what are we doing? Why is our money just so valueless now?
Yeah. Well, it seems to be happening to all the paper currencies, one by one. If you look around the world, most of them, aside from the really big ones, have already had serious hit on them. And I think it's just a matter of time before it's the US. I mean, from what I've read, the last meeting of the Fed when they decided not to put interest rates up. I mean, if you consider interest rates to be a price on the commodity being money itself, it's worth that price, which is zero at the moment. So.
Yeah, I guess we're probably going there very soon in Australia. If you keep looking at the trend,
$100 note in Australia.
But I guess in Russia, are people that afraid to take their money out of the banks at the moment, or is everyone sort of stabilised at the moment?
Well, look, I think people still change their money into foreign currencies, but that's happening less and less. I mean, I remember distinctly 5-6 years ago, all the little shops around the place that, sell drinks and chocolate bars and things like that. At the end of the day, they'd take what cash they had, they'd go to the little window and change it into US dollars. That was standard practice. And that served them well, especially in the last 18 months when the currency collapsed. But I think that's kind of changing now. People are seeing things changing. However, there's not much... People talk about Russia buying gold, and certainly the government's buying a lot, as we're well aware, but the people aren't really. And that's one thing that kind of makes me still a little bit skeptical about Russia's position overall.
From my perspective, because we, from our TV station here in Brisbane, 31 Digital, we broadcast Russia Today, which is one of the major TV networks for news in Russia. And the weird thing that I've noticed with especially the news coming out of Russia is that we'd get major stories from Australia coming through there that we didn't get on our normal TV networks. And for some reason, like you'd think some sort of big thing that's coming out of the government that's trying to expose some stuff, you don't sort of expect it's going to be from like a Russian television news network. And so there's been a lot of controversy with the news and their stance of being legitimate in that sort of stuff in the world at the moment. What's your take on it?
Well, my take on it is that, the level of the lying and BS that's coming out of a lot of other major international news organisations is that for something like RT to kind of stand out, they don't really have to do anything spectacular. They just have to tell it like it is, because there's so many lies coming out that, what rings true being actually a true story, or at least a story that, isn't a complete and utter fabrication. It rings true, and people with an awareness of what's going on can hear that, I mean, but seriously, I mean, Russia Today obviously is a government-funded thing, and they have an agenda and everything like that, but it's not hard to push it. There's no agenda when you're just telling people what's happened, or what they know, So, this is the other thing with Putin as a leader. I mean, if you compared him to a lot of other great leaders throughout history, in many ways, he's nothing special, really. He's just a kind of conservative leader that's looking after the interests of the majority, in his own country and that sort of thing, which is nothing spectacular. He's not doing anything, radically different. It's just that in comparison to other kinds of leadership out there in the world, he stands out. I mean,
obviously wearing no shirt is going to make him stand out, and wrestling bears, as we hear in Australia. And
that's great PR.
Well, awesome.
That's just great PR, and good on him. That's just clever. Why should we denigrate someone for just using a well-oiled PR machine to get his message across? I mean, that's just the way it is. I just think in comparison to the blatant lies that are coming out somewhere else, which are becoming so much more transparent these days, as they kind of get more desperate, and as more and more people like ourselves start waking up to what's going on and how much easier it is now to start putting the dots together, and the whole agenda of the Hegelian dialectic problem reaction solution scenario. It's so blatantly obvious now to even the most passive observer that to get that message across is becoming easier for them.
But I just want to touch on this article quickly as well before we go, because someone sent this through for me recently that came through antimedia.com, and that's the mainstream media finally admits that the Syrian conflict is a US-Russian proxy war.
What does proxy war mean?
Basically, that's the ground where it's playing out.
Not direct, but
yeah.
So indirectly, that's where
it's playing out.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's that came out yesterday. This article: the Syrian civil war rages on, displacing as many as 11 million people, and killing nearly 300,000 as the conflict reaches into its 5th year. So, it's a little bit unfortunate about what's happening there, but also geopolitically as well, because Iran and China sending troops in there as well. So, it's just going to be interesting to see how things play out at this point in time. And I do hope that the shift is in the right direction.
Well, I think the shift is there. I think we're going to look at this sort of thing as like another growing up tool, because if we look at it just like in that fascination for gunfire, we've already seen it with Iraq. Mm-hmm. We saw it with all of its predecessors, and it's just a bunch of people watching television if it was a movie.
Well, the interesting thing is the patterns are the same, whether you want to displace the story about weapons of mass destruction, whatever. So it's happened before. It's happened in Afghanistan. It's happened in Iraq. It's happened in Syria. It's happened in Libya.
It's actually manifesting what you call it the PNAC, Project for New American Century.
Mm.
That was by the way, you can download that document PDF.
David, I spoke about it a lot a few years ago.
Yeah,
I know, and it touched me because at the time when this started, I was in Iraq, and Iraq was the target.
Okay, well, that makes sense that you'd read that there. Yeah. But I guess it's that kind of thing where we're finally getting to a point where people have to take responsibility, not only for this, but for letting these things happen, and not at least taking responsibility, being a sovereign person, and getting out there and start going, oh, wait a second, I'm not going to just complicate my life even more by sitting down and not having my say or not trying to stop these things from happening. And I guess this is what Mark Passio says. It's like, you understand what you're doing. You don't like this sort of stuff, but yet you sit at home and you'll watch it on television. And then you'll argue with your family of how this is such a wrong thing, but yet you're directing it in the wrong sort of fashion. I think growing up for us is to start directing these things where they need to be directed. And
important also the intuition, your intuitive knowledge, so that you don't just get all the information around you and swallow everything, but just to get a confirmation what you already know inside. Now is the time to be you as an authentic person, not just influenced by everything.
And that's true, because I think if you're a Zen within yourself, well, it doesn't matter if they're doing a war, and it feels more comfortable speaking out against the war when you know that there's nothing that they can do to hurt your Zen.
Yeah, like what you mentioned last week.
Yeah,
you went down the rabbit hole of.
I broke my brain.
Broke your brain.
Yeah, but it's not always a bad thing, fellas. It's not always a bad thing.
But, I mean, now you realize you want to be yourself. You want to be yourself, the authentic self.
It's an interesting time. We're evolving. And we're evolving at the moment. But I think, like you touched on, Kris. Like I think you've got to be able to look at the world objectively. You've got to question everything. You've got to dig deeper. You've got to find out what the truth is. You've got to make sure that you're not complicit in contributing to any of the negativity, whether it's how you conduct yourself as an individual being, yourself as well, and don't buy any of the BS that's being peddled to us. And if there's anything that's being wrong, or there's it's just about taking a stand and making sure that we're not contributing to it individually or collectively as much as possible.
Trust yourself.
I think we've hit it on the nail, and it's a great time to live in, because really, how exciting is it? You may be up and down, but even all this stuff's happening, people are nice to each other. You can go down, and that greengrocer will be happy that you came. Your friend will give you a hug. So it's all that kind of thing where even though this stuff's happening, the world is still amazing.
Yeah.
Around everyone.
Yeah, we have to spread that into those who are not so fortunate.
Yeah.
And looks like we've come to the end of the show. So Bam, how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about the stuff that you know, or want to help you in retirement by giving you Pilates lessons?
Yeah, actually through Conscious Wisdom, Facebook, posted quite a lot in there. I'm a member in there. And from there on, you can see also my Facebook page. That's where you can contact me.
Awesome. And Paul,
yep.
Where can people get in touch with you?
You can get me through the website where we help people set up their own private structures through www.cause-driven, D-R-I-V-E-N, cause-driven-private, P-R-I-V-A-T-E.org. You can contact us through that website.
Fantastic. And guys, you've been listening to the Conscious Wisdom podcast, and you can check us out on latenightmedia.com/CWpod. We've got all the old ones there, lots of new ones coming soon. Check us out on Facebook,